Boom! Ken Roczen versus Eli Tomac on the orange Red Bull KTM. Am I surprised? No, I am not one bit surprised. I'll stop that music here. Do you see how many are gone? I don't know. If you could count, there's like 5 or 6 of them are gone, but whatever they put in the Costco cookies is crack. And today's been a day full of racing. You've got the Paris Supercross and then now the World Supercross. And how are we supposed to compare the two? One is like an arena cross track from a promoter that has done it for a decade. And then you have freaking World Supercross who can't make a track map. Like, for the love of God, for them to put out a track map, and then they put out this itty bitty animation where the programmers don't even know probably how to ride a dirt bike because they're like, oh yeah, we're going to step off this tabletop and then we're just going to go quad. Doesn't happen at all, right? But honestly, the track, I thought I was watching the whole track in grayscale, where I was like, is the dirt really that color? Is it like, did somebody just take all of the color out of it? I don't know. It was weird. It was tripping me out for something. Maybe it was the sugar high for pre-diabetic, or maybe it was really just that gray. Maybe it was the shine from the cameras, from all the rocks that were in the whoops. And I can't believe that Justin Cooper had the fastest freaking lap time jumping through the whoops. Can you believe that? And what's cool about this whole schedule is that if you get super pole and fastest qualifier, not only you get some points, but you are the fastest qualifier gets the gate pick for all 3 races. And all 3 races, one race is 10 points, second race is 10 points, and they're basically heat races, 8 laps. That's a heat race, right? I mean, Mike Alessi would be happy because he's won a couple of those, right? There's no pun intended there. My point being is it's not very long, okay? And then the last one is all of a sudden 25 freaking points, which is a total full race, right? Full race. Nuts. Crazy. It's more of a triple crown, right? And I will say that Tomac on that KTM looks like he can hammer anything. And that steel frame, thank God it's a steel frame because he's going to break that fucker in half with how hard he's hitting stuff. I saw him Tom Viall quad into stuff and case it, except for he didn't take jet out on his way into the corner. He just was able to soak it up completely. And yes, that is completely a pun. If you've seen my last video, you should probably go check that one out because that one was pretty good. I feel bad for Tom because he's my homeboy and I want to see him do well on that Honda, but that was just kind of a bad getting into starting your career back with MXGP on the Honda, and trying to figure out what race was more entertaining to watch. I mean, I was honestly fairly surprised at how racy the racetrack in Canada was. And this was like the first time I've seen a full-blown supercross track at World Supercross, heaven forbid, right? Because sometimes it looked like you just had like a backhoe that you had just a bunch of foreigners out there with their backhoes that were making a supercross track to an actual professionally well done. I mean, I want to see track maps for next weekend for Australia. So come on, guys, like just images. We don't have to have the animated track map, just something. Okay. And I want to see a rule book. I want to see an effing rule book by FIM. Like, I don't get how you could just create this whole series, but then there's no rule book that's easily accessible to people. And even I go digging and I can't even find it. I even have ChatGPT be like, where the hell's the rule book? They're like, well, we don't know. And they can search the entire internet in milliseconds. So I don't get it here. And I'll just put on some of the comments because it's kind of going crazy a little bit. But what did I expect? My watch here just said bedtime reminder is what it said, because it says, Johnny, you need to get at least 7 hours of sleep. So you need to be in bed by at least 10:20. And I'm like, no, I just had, I don't even know how many grams of sugar, about 2,000 calories worth of cookies. I'm ready for a freaking live show. Who wants to stay with me for till 2 a.m.? Right? I'm supposed to be in the mountains like 6:30 in the morning, but you know, that's for another story that I may or may not tell you guys. But anyway, it's just to go like climb like 3,000 stairs. But my point, I'm finallyfast.com, dude. I met you for the first time, and now you keep just donating money. You know, stay WFO. Thank you. You just paid for my Costco cookies. These suckers, because of inflation, they were $6.99. Okay. And then, you know, Trump got into office, which I love the sucker. If he could answer a damn question, if he could just pump my bags, because I'm kind of tired of winning what he's done to crypto at the moment. And, you know, anyway, it's a story for another time as well. But these suckers are $9.99 now. So thank you. I appreciate it. I appreciate it, dude. You know, he's a good individual. So everybody, finallyfast.com. He's been around for a while. So where was I going with this? Roczen versus Tomac. I mean, honestly, I was expecting, and you know, and I've got videos to prove it, that said like he's gonna win his first race. What did Tomac do? Won his first race. It didn't matter if it was just a heat race, and that was only for 10 points at the time. But then he gets second and then wins again. So overall is that. So I still get to say that neener, he wins on the KTM, which wasn't in Kawasaki. For some of the freakers on the internet that thought he was going to Kawasaki, I just laugh and more digress. Okay. But really what I wanted to see was Ken Roczen versus Tomac, and we saw it. And truthfully, we saw the best version of Kenny in race 2. He was hauling ass. He got a good start, and he was out front. He needed to do what he did in Buenos Aires, was go 1-1-1 as far as hole shots, because when you got a guy like Tomac, Tomac is scary. Okay. Not just the poker face, but the just sheer fact that you don't go running through him. You've had guys like Barsha try to run through him, and it doesn't happen. It doesn't happen. Even though he's 33 now, he's just more mature. He just knows how to, I don't know, maybe even manipulate you on and off the bike now, right? So is this the best version we are going to see of Tomac? Yes, there's some kinks that he's got to work out. Now, I will do a rider analysis, because that motorcycle was all over the fucking place. It was left and right. It was going to take him out here, throw him over the bars here. But no, it's Tomac. For some damn reason, that dude, the only time he's going to hurt himself is when he jumps a jump perfectly and his heels snap. And then when he comes around a corner and he just doesn't get his foot slips off the foot peg and he rams into the back of it. Like, that's the only way you're going to take Tomac out. It's not going to be a major crash. Okay. Which is so gnarly. And minor sidebar, Jason Anderson on the inferior progressive bike, doing well. Jason looks like he still needs to work through some of his fitness, because these fast sprint laps of 8 to then even 12, I think that's where he's coming to terms with stuff. Like, and also that last race, he got the F out of the way for Kenny. I'm sure Dustin Pipes and that whole crew over there were like, hey, you need to let Kenny by. So he let Kenny by. As much as I hate to say it, that's happens in racing all the effing time, right? As much as we want to say, no, these guys are going to go full blown. No, they're not. And that's the exact same reason why I believe Kenny slowed down. He was like, dude, I'll do 2 laps real fast. He got super close to Tomac, and then he's going, shit, how the hell am I going to get around Tomac on a one-line track? Yeah, there was a couple different deals, but if you saw my rider analysis, there's too many 90s. It didn't make the best racy track, especially coming across the start. Everyone is just funneling wide. It was just what it was, right? But I do say that it was arguably maybe a better track than Paris, because I was actually really impressed with Paris, but it was like ice. It was more like the Buenos Aires dirt, but it was a better track design. And then here, this was a better track design than Buenos Aires with shitty dirt. So it's like, what was better? But truthfully, this was a much bigger track. I liked it. They did change a few things where there wasn't like a step on, off before the finish line. They were like, hey, I bet the riders are like, what are you doing here? No, we just want one. We can triple on and then off. And they made, before the next triple, they made one of the little rollers much smaller towards the end because they're like, nobody's going to be able to double here. And I do think that Tomac had a couple smaller lines or slower lines than Kenny at first. And Kenny's just smooth, dude. Where Tomac is just side to side, back end is just kicking him left and right. It looked like maybe valving issue, but I know on that Star Yamaha, those guys were struggling trying to keep up with the HRC Honda bikes because those bikes freaking have the progressive suspension of just the adaptability of like a trophy truck where it's constantly changing, basically the valving as it's going over bumps. So that just sucks to the dirt, right? Tomac's bike, however, looked like it was a hardtail at sometimes. It was like, nope, not going to happen. And then it just instantly takes him over here. But I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised that he won. I'm not surprised that he beat Kenny. Do I think Kenny gave it his best effort? Yeah. In race 2, race 3, at the end, I think he just kind of phoned it in a little bit. And if the rumors on the street are that he's not going to finish the series, well, does that leave Jason Anderson to maybe win the series or Cooper? But Cooper's going to have a better points lead over Jason Anderson. So we will see. We will see come next weekend in Australia. But I did think it was funny how after everything was all said and done, they didn't congratulate each other. They just rode into the pits, which tells you that Kenny was pissed. Kenny was bummed that he didn't beat Tomac because really Tomac's only going to get better. Kenny's got a motorcycle that he's been freaking fine tuning for 4 fucking years. And now you've got what Sexton left over, and Prado is now trying to take that motorcycle as well. But I don't know where I was going with that. My point is that Tomac is starting over with something. And Ian Harrison over there is letting him just, hey, what do you need? It's like the Ryan Dungey all over again with KTM, where they just fed him money and they're like, make this what you want. And it became the shit for a while. And then he retired, and then it really wasn't the shit anymore. But maybe will it be the shit again? Right? I was surprised to see how well he could hammer that bike with a steel frame as opposed to all the aluminum frames that he's been on. Right? That steel frame is going to flex differently. Despite what they said on the broadcast, it's more flexy. So it's going to have some rigidity in somewhere else. And I'm sure that's where they're struggling with the suspension is they're like, hey, Tomac, what do you need? And he's like, I'm just need a hammer shit. And it's like, it's already flexing. So they got to make it stiffer. And then what happens through the whoops? Well, it's too slow. So he's like, duh, 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 duh. But quite frankly, in Vancouver, there was rocks on the whoops. So it was, I don't know. Do you want to hit whoops when you're 5th gear pinned and there's rocks on top? Probably not. It would have been nice to have them not steamrolled. Okay, guys, I know everybody that was messaging me in the last video. It's not a steamroller. Apparently haven't used steamrollers since like the 30s. They're just now rollers. So I don't know why I'm stuck on steamrollers. So I would like to see whoops made with rollers. And what happened here? Nobody died. And there was like 12 whoops. So same thing in Paris. I mean, I think a couple people almost died in those whoops. So it's give or take, right? Maybe the 9 whoop rule is good, but we should have 2 whoop sections. It's Supercross, okay? I don't want to have these step-on, step-offs sections because they're just that. Everyone is doing it. Everyone's doing the same line. Where in the whoops, you got guys jumping them. You got guys blitzing them. You got inside, outside. Basically, when you have a step-on, step-off, pretty much everyone's just using the same line. It's not real racy. Not at all. And yeah, pretty freaking much. Okay. In the 250 class, I don't know. I don't even want to watch the 250 class because I'm pretty sure that Max is going to go out there and just own everybody, right? It's like a freebie. So that's where I go refill the Costco cookies is because then I come back and I'm like, oh, Max is still out front. Should probably, bet the poly markets on this. Be like, hey, put 2 Bitcoin down on Max winning. But it would probably cost 4 Bitcoin because everybody realizes that he's, of course, going to win, right? Well, poor McElrath, the defending champ, I don't know what's going on with him. He couldn't. I'm lost for words. He's doing as poorly as the Starks. And one thing I also found was interesting was everyone is running earplugs, right? But they're bitching about they can't hear the Starks. Like, I get the point. You can't hear a bike coming up on you, but it's mildly an oxymoron when you're over there with earplugs because you want to zone everything out. So truthfully, I don't know. I'm starting to believe that there might not be as much of a discrepancy between having a bike that makes no sound and just having earplugs in, right? Of course, you're going to hear some guy behind you like Barsha or Tomac that are just dragging the freaking clutch or just dropping their elbow. But a rider like Jet, who's using just the sheer Lauren torque and just going around corners in third gear going, boo, boo, you're not going to be able to hear him over your own damn motorcycle with earplugs in. So I'm sort of convincing myself that that's not as big of an issue as that I think, besides that motorcycle just sucks. Riding one, it's fast as fuck. 80 horsepower, nobody can handle. You always down tune the sucker to like 50 or 60, but it's the technology. It's all the things that these bikes have that they don't have. The suspension components, the ECUs that are constantly ever changing. Like, they're just, as much as that is a technology motorcycle, it's so far behind the 8 ball when it comes to the Suzuki even, right? With just the R&D with everything. I'm glad it's there, but I'm not surprised by that either. So in review, did I think Kenny was going to beat Roczen? Yeah, and I mean, Kenny was going to beat Roczen. That must be the cookies talking, because I guess Kenny can beat Roczen if he puts his ass on the ground again. But did I think Kenny was going to beat Tomac? No, I did not. So was I right? Yes. But was I surprised that he beat him one race? Yeah, I was actually pleasantly surprised that he went out there and got a good start and beat Tomac and pushed Tomac into making mistakes that second race. That second race was the most fun to watch because Kenny was out front. The other 2 races were somewhat boring. I mean, the first one was intense because Jason Anderson was on it, and he was working his ass off, and he was trying real hard and he beat his teammate. So not only did Kenny get waxed by one guy, but he got waxed by his teammate. And maybe he got a talking to at the end where they're like, hey, Kenny's supposed to have such a big points lead that he doesn't even have to race the last race, and he still wins the championship. So what happened in the last race, the third race? Jason pulls over. I don't think that is a coincidence at all. So, in the comments, do you think Tomac is going to get better? Is that bike going to get better? It's an oxymoron. Of course it is, right? So now we get to depict what's going to happen between Tomac and Sexton on the Cowies, because they did do a lot of development for both those motorcycles. So how well they're going to do together. And truthfully, this might be like a blessing in disguise, because Tomac, even just talking to the whole production talking to him, because it was honestly a pretty good production. I like Ralph Shaheen over some other guys. Daniel Blair knows his shit. Jeff Emick, dude, that they make a good production team, right? There's just some minor hiccups that they should have figured out, especially with it being like the 4th year running now. I still mildly expect a little bit more, just like the track maps. Okay, why don't we have track maps printed out and the rules? I need the rules. I need it on your website saying this is where the rules are for World Supercross. Not like, because when I did talk to Daniel Blair and Jeff Emick, they're like, oh yeah, it's under the FIM, so it's just kind of the same thing as MXGP. Well, it should be depicted between, hey, this is MXGP rules, this is World Supercross rules. I mean, even Feld Entertainment does it with, hey, this is AMA sanctioned motocross. Hey, this is AMA sanctioned Supercross. And just to be annoying, this is AMA super motocross. They all have different rules, even though they're basically the same. They still have different titles. So FIM, get your shit together. Put the rule book out with it labeled World Supercross. Okay. And I will apologize if it's already been done, but I can't find it. So that's pretty much where I want to see it. And you guys are asking where the kitty is. He's not here tonight. Anyway, good job, Tomac. Good job. You make me now want to buy a KTM. But go check out the Ducati review too, because that thing is great. I love that bike. That bike is so fast. And because of the Desmo valve system, that thing, you can rev the dog piss out of it and it just keeps on going. Yeah, linear power, but just broad power the entire way. Check that out. Till next time, keep it WFO. Bro, da, 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 da.